PBS Utah presents the Governor's Monthly News Conference, an exchange between Utah reporters and Governor Spencer Cox.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's great to be with you again. Thank you for taking time to be with us this morning. I just want to begin by recognizing that we know that these snowstorms are making life a little more complicated, but we desperately need this water, and I'm grateful that winter has arrived and that we have snowplow drivers and public safety officers keeping us safe on the roads. I'm grateful to see so many neighbors helping neighbors. Just a reminder to please slow down out there and be careful. I want to give you just a quick update on where we are with vaccines and boosters, and a quick COVID update, and then we'll go straight to questions. The good news is that we are seeing reductions in the spread of COVID here in the state of Utah. Our numbers are coming down. Our hospitalizations are coming down as well. That's welcome news. We're seeing numbers that we saw basically we haven't seen since about August, early September. That's a great direction, and we're happy to see that coming down. All of that being said, there are some concerning trends out there as well. As we gather with family and friends during the holiday season, we hope that everyone will be safe and happy, and a reminder that we are not out of this pandemic yet. Yesterday was a sobering reminder of this, as we saw how deadly this disease can be, with the death of a young boy between the ages of 1 and 14. We can't release any more information than that from Davis County. Our hearts go out to the family of this young Utahn and to all who have lost loved ones during this pandemic. We did see last year, of course, a major spike during the holiday season, and as we are spending more time indoors and more time together, we would just encourage people to exercise precautions and be safe. A reminder that spending Christmas in the ICU, it's never fun to be in the ICU. It's even worse during Christmas time, and we want to protect everyone. One change that has happened since the last time we spoke last month, when we encouraged everyone to get boosters ages 18 and older, is that now boosters are available for those ages 16 and older. And we know that boosters are having a huge impact against the Delta variant. We also know that as this new variant, the Omicron variant, makes its way into the United States and into Utah, that boosters perform much better against that variant, and so we are encouraging people to get their boosters. We were also asking all vaccine providers to proactively reach out to those over the age of 65 as well, with those with underlying medical conditions, and encourage them directly to get their booster doses. So far, 23% of those ages 5 to 11 have had at least one dose, which is great news. We also continue to do well with those ages 12 to 18 years old, with just over 234,000 kids in this age range that have received their first dose, which is 63% of those that are eligible. Yesterday marked the 1-year anniversary since the first vaccine was administered here in the state of Utah. Since then, we have delivered over 4 million doses in 1 year, over 4 million doses. Even a year ago, I don't think any of us imagined we could get to a number that high. And we have more than 2.1 million Utahns that have received at least one dose, and that's 65%. And 1.87 million are fully vaccinated. That's 57.5%. That's a remarkable achievement. In addition to these booster doses that are now being made available, we are expecting some new exciting oral antiviral treatments. We've talked about that before. We're working very closely with the CDC and the FDA, making sure that as we get them, we can get them out to the Utahns who need them, those who will be qualified to receive them. And we will be receiving limited doses. We don't know what the dosages look like right out of the gate, but we will be sharing that information with with you as soon as we get it. Just another reminder that we have significantly expanded the monoclonal antibody treatments. We have a robust statewide system for delivering them. More people are eligible now than ever before. Last week, for the first time, we delivered over 1,000 of those monoclonal antibody treatments, and that is helping us to reduce hospitalizations. Yesterday or the day before, we were under 500 for the first time in a long time, and so we're anxious to bring hospitalizations down, as we are seeing people being hospitalized for other illnesses, and that's keeping our hospitalization rates high. We need to reduce the amount of COVID hospitalizations as much as possible. Now, for those that are interested, you can visit coronavirus.utah.gov/MAB to find out if you qualify for monoclonal antibody treatments. With that, I just want to wish all Utahns a wonderful holiday season filled with joy and love and family. This has been a very challenging year, but we've also seen some true heroism, resiliency, and successes. We truly believe that we are blessed to be part of a great state, living with wonderful people as our neighbors. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions that you have.
Governor, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals issued a ruling recently on Utah's lawsuit, or the one that we're involved in, on federal vaccine mandates for healthcare workers, saying that the 14 states that sued, they can block the vaccine mandate for healthcare workers. Do you agree with the ruling? I
do. That's why we joined the lawsuit. And I've shared this before. Look, I've been, every time we meet, I talk about the importance of getting vaccinated, and the importance of protecting those around us, protecting those we love. We're desperate to get as many people vaccinated as possible, and government has a role to play. But the way the president has done this, I believe, is unconstitutional. The Fifth Circuit has agreed with that, and there are several lawsuits that are moving forward. I will note that that's an injunction. That case will move forward, and the Congress has the ability to do this. That's the right way to do it. If the president wants to go that direction, he needs the backing of those who are elected to make those laws, and so that's important that we follow constitutional law.
On a legislative level, though, lawmakers may be planning bills that would block government from issuing any kind of vaccine mandate. Do you support that or not? Well,
I think at least I hope we're past that. We had a special session where we dealt with those laws, and I think the law we passed, the compromise that we came up with, is one that makes sense. Look, we need to come together, and that's we're taking the animosity out of the room, I think, is important. We've been able to successfully do that, I believe, here in the state of Utah with the law that was passed, and I feel comfortable with where we are right now.
You don't support any kind of expansion of that, then?
I don't. I think we've hit the right balance here.
Governor, last month at your news conference, you talked about your desire to take a message to the superintendents of schools across the state after the death of Izzy Tishner to address racism and bullying. Has that conversation with the superintendents happened yet, and where do you feel things are moving now a month later in dealing with racism and bullying in schools?
Yeah, Daniel, thank you for bringing that up. I did have that conversation about a week ago. I was able to meet with all the superintendents in the state. We had a wonderful discussion, a really, I think, candid discussion, a raw discussion about what is happening in their school districts. We were able to listen to each other, listen to school districts that felt like they were having some success, some of the best practices. They're sharing that around. We had many members of my team, my cabinet, were there, including Nubia Pena, who is my chief advisor, the senior advisor, working on multicultural affairs. And the lieutenant governor was there, as well as my chief education advisor. The state superintendent, Sid Dixon, was there, and this was a very powerful discussion. It's an ongoing discussion. In fact, we will be having follow-up meetings. My team with superintendents, again, working on best practices, finding ways to engage in on these topics, making sure that all of our children feel safe, that they can deal with, because as long as there have been kids and human beings, there has been bullying. We know that happens. It happens in every school. It happened to me. It will continue to happen. The question is how we deal with these things. And that's what we're working on, making sure that our educators have the tools they need to deal with these things quickly, efficiently, and safely, making sure that all of our kids feel safe, that we have an environment where they feel that they can learn, and continuing to engage parents. This so often these things can and should be taken care of at home. I think we all feel bad that we're placing more and more emphasis on our teachers having to deal with things outside of just teaching and educating our students. But as long as these things are happening, we have to deal with them at school. And so I left that meeting feeling very optimistic about where we're headed. That superintendents are recognizing that this isn't something they can just kind of put in the corner and maybe it'll go away, that it's something that we have to confront head on, and that they're willing to have those difficult conversations.
And you see concrete action coming out of those discussions?
Yeah, I do. And again, the best part was having superintendents sharing things that they are actually doing, and having other superintendents say, that's a great idea, we're going to try that in our school. There are some pilot programs that are happening in different schools where they're sharing the results of those and the data from those, and then again, our team will have follow-up conversations with the superintendents to help them implement some of these ideas.
Governor, given the recent safety threats in 2 of our schools because of threats of violence, do you have concerns about violence in our schools, and does Utah need to do more to address this issue, and are these threats indicative of unmet mental needs of the state's youth? Sure,
Katie. You ask a couple questions in there. Am I worried? And the answer is yes. Certainly, I'm very worried. We hear of violence in schools. Certainly, there are very high-profile cases that have happened that you all have covered over the years. We've been fortunate here in the state of Utah to avoid some of that terrible and deadly violence that we've seen in other places. But we've been fortunate because we've had quick response from incredible law enforcement officials. We've had students, parents who have reported to proper authorities the possibility of the potential violence in schools, and there have been interventions that have happened ahead of time to prevent that from happening. We have some tools that other states don't have, and it's one of the reasons we encourage the Safe Utah app to be downloaded in every school, on every smart device, so that there is a piece of that. We talk about that mostly for mental health needs, but there is also a piece in there for education where students can anonymously report any type of threat that is happening. We get those threats every day. Those are shared immediately with the appropriate law enforcement and school officials. And I can tell you that there have been cases where law enforcement that haven't made the news, where there have been interventions, and we believe that have prevented any type of violence or casualties. And so yes, I'm concerned. And these are not just conversations that are happening, but concrete actions that are happening in every school. Governor Herbert and I worked really hard to get additional counseling resources into every school. It's one of the things I'm most proud of. We had about $29 million a couple years ago that went to our schools to hire additional counselors, and it is making a huge difference. I was able to talk, I can't remember if I mentioned this last time or not, but I was talking with a superintendent down in Sevier County about one of the schools and some of the interventions that they've done there with their counseling team, to where they were having upwards of 30 referrals to the office every week for student behavior, and now they're down to about 3 a week because they've been engaging with students. And this mental health piece, it's absolutely driving it. We have an empathy crisis in our country. We know we have a mental health crisis in our country amongst young people. people. Just yesterday, the First Lady and I convened a group of people. It was a convention. We had over 400 participants virtually talking about the mental health needs of young people in our state. And we had, over the course of the past year, we've had a group of experts that have come together. They will be releasing their policy recommendations over the next couple weeks. You'll all get to see that, and we're hopeful that these policy recommendations can be used during the legislative session to help us close some of the gaps that we're finding out there. But we are doing more today than we have ever done in the history of our state on this issue, and we still have a long ways to go.
Governor, what is the state doing to prepare and try to limit the severity of an Omicron surge and try to avoid hospital overload? You know, some other states have gone back kind of and instituted some public health measures, like California, for example, now has an indoor mask mandate again. Is that something you'd consider, and why or why not? So
we're going to be working very closely with our public health officials, as we always do, looking at getting more information on this variant and looking at its spread as it starts to move towards Utah. We know we have a couple cases already in the state of Utah. We are processing about 10% of our cases every year. We're sequencing them to figure out which variants are here and how fast they're spreading. That 10% number may seem small, but that's actually higher than most states. That's a pretty robust number and gives us a really good insight into what is happening out there. There's still so much we don't know about Omicron. What we do know is that it spreads very quickly. We're seeing that, of course, in South Africa. We're seeing it now in Great Britain, and we're learning more about it every day. It also appears that it is less severe in the illness so far. Again, there's a split on this, and the data isn't clear yet. We'll learn more, I think, over the next couple weeks to try to understand that. That's the piece, I think, that matters the most. We have lots of illnesses that spread very quickly, but if they're not filling up hospitals and killing people, we go about our business. If they are filling up hospitals and killing people, then obviously it becomes much more concerning. And so we're still in this Delta wave, and again, going down, which is good news. It's looking like Delta doesn't provide much natural immunity for Omicron, so that's certainly a concern for us. What we do know, though, is that boosters work. Boosters work against Omicron, especially to limit severe illness and hospitalization. And so the thing we can do right now, more than anything, and this is my message to everyone out there, is now is the time to get your booster. Not when Omicron is here. Now is the time to get your booster. If you have time off during the holidays, it's a great time to get your booster in case you have you need a little time to recover. My wife and I got our boosters about a month ago. I had a sore arm, nothing more. Didn't miss a day of work. It was very minor, and so that's the thing that we can do most. And as we talk to our healthcare experts, that's what they're recommending. I talked to them yesterday. They said our message right now is to get vaccinated if you're not vaccinated, and to get boosted if you are vaccinated. So that's what we're doing. As we get new information, we will share that. We will meet with legislative leadership, and we will continue those discussions.
Is any sort of public health, I mean, obviously your hands right now are kind of tied by legislation that was passed earlier this year, but is that a discussion that you could possibly have with lawmakers to roll back some of those measures, if we do get a really bad wave?
Sure, we're always hopeful that we don't have to roll back those measures. I think that they're probably less effective now than ever before, as more and more people, we're seeing that fatigue set in, right, after getting close to 2 years now. People are just tired of this. We also have more tools than ever before to protect ourselves and our families, right? We in the first wave of this virus, we didn't have personal protective gear, so we didn't have high quality masks. Now, high quality masks are readily available to anyone that wants them. We have high quality masks available for every student in the state. You can get high quality masks for your families to protect yourselves. We have vaccines and we have boosters, things that we didn't have before. So that's another way that we can protect people. And so again, people have the ability to take care of themselves and have that choice, and we'll continue to encourage people to do that.
Governor, California, Arizona, and Nevada yesterday announced an agreement to take less water from the Colorado River. Meanwhile, a report from the Utah Rivers Council argues Utah is taking more water than it's allotted under the Colorado River Compact, and stakeholders have long said the upper basin states aren't serious about cutting water use. Is it time to look at where Utah can start to scale back its use of the Colorado River?
So Katie, we have seen a preliminary draft of that report. We're going to be looking at the underlying assumptions in that report. We have data that shows that we are not using our full allotment of the Colorado River, and so those discussions, and again, our scientists are going to be looking into that and having those conversations. So that's the first piece. The second piece is the lower basin has been overusing their portion of the Colorado River for years. Everyone knows that. That's not a secret. And so there's the upper basin states have absolutely been underutilizing their amounts compared to the lower basin states, and California being the most egregious example of that. All of that being said, none of that matters because we know that the hydrology of the river is changing. That is also, there is complete agreement on that. We know that there is going to be less water in the Colorado River for everyone. And we are about to enter negotiations around the Colorado River Compact. And what I can tell you is that there will be broad agreement, including Utah and the upper basin states, together with the lower basin states, as we work to apportion what the new hydrology of the river looks like. And that means all of us are going to have to re-examine where we are and how much we're using. It also means we're going to have to be creative in trying to restore the river basin and taking proactive steps and investing in ways to improve tributaries and improve our waterways so that we can get more water where it needs to go. And Utah is actually leading the nation in some of those watershed restoration efforts. We have projects all across the state that are getting noticed now, that are even our best scientists are amazed and surprised at how well some of these projects are working to improve the hydrology, improve the quality of the water, bring back reduce fire damage and bring back wildlife into these areas that are being treated, both mechanically and via prescribed burns. And so we're optimistic that there are ways to actually improve the water flows into that river, and we'll be working with the other basin states to do more of that in their states as well.
Governor, what are your thoughts on the legislature's move to audit our election systems? Are you worried that that's going to decrease confidence in our voting?
Yeah, thanks, Brian. So I'm not worried that it's going to decrease confidence in our voting. In fact, I think it will do just the opposite. For those who are really interested in the truth, it's going to it will just add to the confidence. We did an audit 2 years ago, a legislative audit, and that audit was very conclusive. They came back and looking at the precise. It's been a while since I've looked directly at the audit. In fact, it's been a couple years, but if I recall, they were looking specifically about people signing up to vote and the processes we had in place to prevent double voting and those types of things. And we came back with a clean bill of health. It was a very positive audit. And so we're not afraid at all of auditing our systems. We stand by them. We have 29 county clerks that we work with. And again, as somebody who ran elections for 7.5 years, I can tell you we have some of the best county clerks anywhere in the country. And we've been recognized widely for having a great voting system that allows registered voters to vote, makes it easier for people to cast their vote, and works to prevent people who shouldn't be voting from voting. And so we have no fear whatsoever of this type of audit. I do worry that there are some people out there who aren't interested in that at all. All they're interested is to lower the trust in the system so that they can make it harder for people to vote. And that's something I'm not interested in. And I don't think any audit will satisfy that small subset of people, small but very vocal subset of people who have bought into conspiracy theories and are willing to just spread lies without any proof. So there's nothing I can do about that group. They're not going to believe anything I say, and they're not going to believe anything the auditors say. But to people who are interested in the truth, I think this will be a very helpful audit. I will also say that every single year since I've been lieutenant governor in 2013, we have changed and improved our election system. So we are constantly doing internal audits to find ways to make it better. And in fact, we have several changes that we've already proposed. Lieutenant Governor Henderson, who's doing an excellent job of running elections, she's a major upgrade from the last guy. They have already proposed ways to improve security and make our elections better. So look, election security is not a stagnant thing. We're always learning and improving, and that's healthy. That's good. That's what we should be doing. So anybody that says we shouldn't make any changes, we should just leave it the same, that they shouldn't be trusted either. But I'm more worried about the people who are saying that we should just tear it all down and get rid of it and start over, because this is the bedrock of our republic, and people without evidence who would undermine that bedrock are playing a very dangerous game.
Governor, the Deseret News and Hinckley Institute recently conducted a poll asking Utahns about the redistricting process and if they support the boundaries dividing Salt Lake County into 4 congressional districts. And only 25% of Utahns said they support that boundary. And separately, about 46% said the Utah Legislature should have voted on the independent commission's maps. Your thoughts on these poll results?
Yeah, well, we've talked about this many times. I don't know that I have anything new to add to that conversation, other than what the Constitution of the state of Utah says. And so I'm not surprised by those numbers. I think that was always the danger that the legislature ran in when this process was set up in the first place. And so I suspect that we'll see pushes to change that again for the next 10 years.
All right, and that's all the time that we have for our television broadcast. Thank you so much for joining us for the Governor's Monthly News Conference. And we're going to continue with a remote reporter. We've got Amy from Utah Public Radio. Go ahead with your question, Amy.
Hi, Governor. In your budget proposal, you said the state is looking to build reservoirs to store water as the drought continues, with some 300 potential sites for future dams to choose from. How many reservoirs do you foresee being built, and how do you plan to balance environmental impacts to these areas with your water storage goals?
Yeah, thank you, Amy. So what I will say is that in our budget we had a bunch of stuff on water, right? And that was certainly one piece that we need to look at. And I've said this before. Look, one of the reasons that we've been able to grow as a state, to be the fastest growing state in the nation, is because people many years ago made some really important decisions and some really important sacrifices and some really important investments. And they built these water storage facilities so that we could live here and so that our kids could live here and so that we could have the best economy in the country. And I'm grateful for those people that made those decisions and those sacrifices 50 years ago, 100 years ago, some of them even 150 years ago, that have allowed us to have this type of robust economy and robust growth here in the state. Now it's incumbent on us to make those same decisions, to make sure that we're not just looking inward at us today, but that we are willing to invest in the future of our state so that 50 years from now, people can look back and say, wow, I'm really glad they did that. And there's a couple things that we can do. We have had a surplus of water. And one of the reasons, the question earlier about Utah hasn't been as serious about conservation as some other states, like maybe Arizona and Nevada, that is absolutely true. I think it's verifiably true that we haven't done as much when it comes to conservation. And the reason for that is that we did have a surplus of water because of the investments that were made here and not made other places. And so I think think it's insane that as a country, some people have decided that we should never invest in the storage of water again. That just makes no sense to me. It's illogical, it's impractical. We have to do that. But that can't be the only thing we do. And that's why you'll notice in my budget that we have very little money put aside for that type of water storage. We have significant money put aside for water conservation. We have to do more. So this isn't one or the other. It's not a choice. We keep being presented with these false choices. It really is both. And that water storage, by the way, isn't just above ground in reservoirs. I don't know how many reservoirs will be built. We have a very robust planning process going on right now, looking at where the next reservoir should be, where they will do the least amount of environmental damage, but allow us to store the most water and get that to the most people. So that process, the experts are going to help tell us where we need to build and how many of those we need to build. But we are also storing water underground. We have aquifers underground, and we've started over the last couple of years. Iron County has been especially effective at this, but recharging our aquifers. So storing water underground where it doesn't evaporate. It's the best kind of storage system, and again where we can reuse it again. But we have several bills that are going to be coming forward in this legislative session. I just met with Representative Robert Spendlove, who is working on those bills. We're drafting them right now. We're just working out some of the final wording, as we'll be releasing those bills soon, that will work specifically on this conservation piece. We also set aside a significant amount of money, at least we're proposing setting aside a significant amount of money to improve optimization in agriculture, to significantly reduce the amount of water that is being used by agriculture and still improving the yields of their crops. We know we have the science there. We can do this, and so we have to invest in all of those things. It's not one or the other, but we can do so. We can do so in an environmentally safe way and in a way that allows us to live here for generations to come.
Okay, Sean, with the Spectrum, go ahead with your question.
Hi, Governor. Reporting from ProPublica said that Utah has gotten out of paying $75 million on poverty issues as a result of the state counting assistance provided by the LDS Church as its own. So do you think this program should continue, and what do you think it says about the state's outlook on people struggling with poverty?
Well, we are spending more on poverty programs right now than ever before in our state's history. And we're very fortunate to have incredible partners all across the state that are helping with that effort. This allows our dollars to go further in the state of Utah. And so I do think it is a positive thing. There were lots of problems in that story, lots of factual problems in that story. We've addressed those, and there was an op-ed that came out from our director of the Department of Workforce Services, specifically addressing those. But I can tell you, we have an incredibly generous state. We lead the nation in charitable giving every year. We lead the nation in volunteerism every year. And you can't even begin to quantify that. When you add all of those things together, we are as generous a state when it comes to the way we use our tax dollars, the way we use our private dollars, the way we use our faith-based dollars, the way we use our nonprofit-based dollars, our foundation dollars. We lead the nation in upward mobility. We have the second lowest poverty rate in the nation. All of those things matter, and all of those things happen to be left out of that report. So I don't have concerns with what we're doing as a state, and I feel very lucky to be the governor of a state that cares so much about people.
Okay, we have one more from Veronica with Telemundo, Utah. Go ahead with your question, Veronica.
Governor, as you said, it's been a year since the vaccine was available here in Utah. Even though there's a reduction in the spread of COVID, cases are still high. What do you think cases are still high in the state, even though we've had the vaccine available for this long?
Sure. Well, I think there's several reasons that cases are still high. Part of this is just we've seen these regional surges that are happening all over the country. I mean, right now, the Northeast that has even higher vaccination rates than us, they're getting pummeled right now, as we've seen. So we know there is kind of a natural ebb and flow to this this disease, as there are with so many other diseases. Obviously, part of the answer is that we still have a lot of people that have not been vaccinated. As I see, 10 people are going to die today. On average, 8 to 12, somewhere in there. We've seen that now over the past several weeks. That's tragic, and most of those, a significant percentage of those, will be unvaccinated. In fact, your risk of dying right now in the state of Utah, I think, is about 15 times higher if you are unvaccinated than vaccinated. One of the fascinating things to me is, if you look at it, fascinating in a bad way, you look at the average age of people who are dying in the state of Utah from COVID right now versus the surge a year ago, and that age has come down significantly. And the reason for that, again, is that we have been very successful in vaccinating those over the age of 65. I don't have the numbers in front of me now, but well over 80%, 90%, approaching 90% for most of those age categories above 65, and so that's certainly playing a role in the spread of cases. Now, we are a younger state, which is good. We are a healthier state. There was some data that came out just yesterday from a publication. I apologize, I don't have it right in front of me, but looked at a whole bunch of different factors and kind of gave a grade to every state on different pandemic factors. One being health, another one being education, another one being the economy, and all of those. And Utah, I think, was tied for second or third when you add all of those things together. So we've done okay through the pandemic. There are certainly things that we could do better. I'm glad those numbers are coming down, but we know with another wave of Omicron coming, we expect that eventually those numbers will start to tick back up. So we just need, again, we need people to get vaccinated. That was the beginning of the story, the middle of the story, and the end of the story. Get vaccinated, get your booster. That will prevent the loss of life, and it will save you from going into the hospital.
Governor, back to water, and this with snow. I know it's the bad day to ask this because we've got snow outside, but a recent study in the Washington Post publicized there says that the Mountain West will see less and less snow over the ensuing years, including some years where perhaps there is no snow during the winter. Utah's talked a lot about hosting another Olympic Games. Is Utah positioned to be able to host another Games, given the dwindling amounts of snow we've seen? What do you think about that and the studies that have come out on this?
Yeah, we feel like we're very well positioned to host another Olympic Games in 2030. We in fact, right now, today, here in Salt Lake City, the U.S. Olympic Planning Committee is hosting their board meeting. They're right here. Had dinner with them last night, talking about they thought that we planned the snowstorm for their arrival. It worked out just perfectly. But look, this is a struggle again across the globe, right? As the climate continues to change, people in different countries are worrying about this. A lot of the snow for the Olympics in Beijing, most of that will be man-made. We know we've seen that certainly in other places. We have the capacity to do that here in the state of Utah, to be able to supplement and to make snow if necessary. And so we will continue to watch that. Less concerned about the Olympics than probably the other two pieces, and that is our long-term storage, again, because most of our water comes from snowpack. That's how we make it through the year. So that's certainly concerning. And again, if you can't rely on snowpack for your water, then you have to be thinking more broadly. How do we catch and keep rainwater if the water is coming in another form? We don't have collection systems that are utilized for that right now, at least very good collection systems. So that's something that we have to kind of rethink and reimagine. And then there's the economic piece of this, right? Winter sports and the long-term health of our ski resorts is so important for our state. Billions of dollars that come into our state because of these industries, and making sure that they can thrive and survive as the climate continues to change. So those are the things that we have experts working on, that we're constantly having discussions about. Most of those projections still have us being pretty good in 2030 and 2034, and we'll see. I hope the experts are wrong sometimes, but we will continue to plan as if they're going to be spot on.
Governor, on that note, the drought report came out today finding that roughly 78% of the state remains in extreme drought. Correct. Even with this. Given that the winter may not be as great as we think it's going to be or as we hope it will be, what conservation measures or what restrictions are you looking at next year as temperatures heat up?
Yeah, thanks, Ben. So we're very excited by this big snowstorm, and we need so much more of those. And we've got more snow in the forecast. That's the good news. The other good news, again, with the glass half full, being an optimist, right now the water content of our soil is 16% above the median. So that's great news. That means when the snow we get melts, it will go straight to the reservoirs, which didn't happen last year. Right now, our statewide average for our reservoirs is 49%. Last year at this time, it was about 65%. So that kind of puts into perspective where we are versus where we were. So another piece of good news, we proved this year something that some people and some experts thought we couldn't do, and that is that we could change behavior, that people would actually be willing to reduce their use of water, given specific recommendations and then some specific restrictions to decrease their water usage. We save billions and billions of gallons of water. We thought, based on projections, that we would end the year at under 40% in our reservoirs, and we didn't. We're at about, again, 49%, 50%. That delta, that gap, is because people change their behavior. So that's the good news to me, to understand that we can get by with less. And so that's why I think our proposals this year are so very important. And one of those proposals is to use a significant amount of money to meter, secondary water metering. We still have far too many secondary connections that are not metered. And you can't, if you don't know how much you're using, it's really hard to cut back. It's really hard to be able to use market forces to charge the actual cost of water, and that's something we look at. But an interesting note, and we've shared this before, that just by metering, even if you don't put any restrictions on place, even if you don't charge more, we see about a 20% reduction in individual homes usage just by putting a meter on. So that's an important piece of this as well. And then changing the unnecessary grass in our state. We waste so much water on grass that never gets used for anything other than just being ornamental in park strips and others. So we have a bill to work on that. We have a bill that will prohibit municipalities from mandating grass, which I guess put another way will allow anyone in the state who wants to have a waterways landscape to be able to do that. And then the piece I already mentioned, and that is helping our farmers use less water, which will free up resources for other things. So all this package that we are proposing this year will be by far the most significant advancement we've made in water conservation, and that's what we're doing to prepare for next year.
Governor, what are your thoughts about Utah's economy over the past year, and are you concerned about rising inflation, especially amid today's record high housing costs?
Yeah, well, again, we're the envy of virtually every other governor when it comes to our economy. We have record low unemployment at 2.2% right now and dropping. We have business startups. There will be some numbers coming out, we believe, in the next couple of weeks that show that for the first time since anyone can remember, Utah will actually be ahead of California when it comes to innovation jobs, the innovation sector and tech jobs per capita. That Utah will become the number one state in the nation for that, which I think is shocking to a lot of people. We have more deals being done in this state, more venture capital coming into the state than at any time in our state's history. We have new startups coming on every time. I mean, there's never been a better time to work in the state of Utah. There are jobs available, jobs in every single industry, in every single field, and employers are desperate. So I'm very, very pleased with our economy. And At the same time, I am also very, very concerned about inflation. As I talked to some of our small business owners, I had a roundtable with small businesses a little over a month ago, and it was fascinating. It was something I've never heard before, or never seen even written about before, where they all said, we have more business than we've ever had before. This could be the best year in our business's history. We can expand, we can do all of these things. And we might not be in business next year because of inflation. And so two things. One piece is inflation. Actually, three things. Inflation, the access to capital, being able to get loans because maybe they don't have the history or because they had a bad year last year because of COVID. Banks are a little hesitant to loan to them. And then the third piece is supply chains, getting the supplies they need for whatever their business does. And so those are the things that worry me. The inflationary piece is certainly concerning, not just for businesses and maybe less for businesses, but for families. Who again, with inflation at 6% or 9% or whichever data point we're using, you probably didn't get a 9% raise, and so your cost of groceries, that just means that's money you can't spend on other things. So that significantly worries me. The labor piece of that also worries me, and it worries me not just in a macro sense from an economic perspective, but as the governor of a state who has over 20,000 employees and has to run many different divisions, we are struggling to find workforce. I saw that we've gotten so desperate. We have Robert Gerke working at one of our liquor stores in the state. I just have to give him a shout out for spending a couple hours with our team down there, and we that is a struggle. We've seen it at the state hospital. We've seen it with law enforcement and corrections. We're down, over 140 employees in corrections right now that we desperately need. So people are working multiple shifts. There's mandatory overtime, and that tends to burn people out. And so if I could, I'll just use this opportunity to make a plea. There's never been a better time to work for the state of Utah. Public service is incredibly rewarding. There's an opportunity to have real fulfillment in your life and your work. Come and apply and work for the great state of Utah. We need you, and you'll feel great every day. And we're hoping desperately that the legislature will give us some more funds so that we can pay our state workers more.
Okay, do you have any final thoughts heading into the new year? We won't see you back here till next year. So.
Well, you won't see me until next year. And my final thoughts are just this. I appreciate all of you who work so hard to get information out to the citizens of the state of Utah. I feel very fortunate to have been able to serve as a governor for 1 year. We've learned some things. We've made some mistakes. I think we've definitely done some things right. But as I had a chance to visit with the Western governors in California just this past week, we had our annual meeting, and I was reminded there that anytime I start to feel bad about something that's happening here, I just have to look at the other 49 governors and realize how blessed I am and how lucky I am. And I feel we are all so blessed and fortunate to live in this state. We have our problems, but I wouldn't trade our problems for anyone else's. Thank you to the heroes out there, especially our healthcare workers. It's going to be a very busy Christmas and holiday season. We love you. We recognize your sacrifices. We appreciate it. Please be kind. Take care of each other. Be nice to your neighbors. Get off social media. Turn off cable news, and turn on your neighborhood and your families. Thanks so much, you guys.